Welcome to SuprIntentional, a space dedicated to conversations with people operating in purpose, who form intentional relationships that shape our lives and our community. SuprIntentional is brought to you by Mega Fun Park, the most fun under one roof, best enjoyed with friends. Let's get into today's episode.
All right, welcome everyone to SuprIntentional. Again, I'm sitting down with Superintendent of East Aurora Schools, District 131, Dr. Bob Halverson. Bob, good to see you again.
Good to see you as well, Linton.
All right, so you just completed your first year. Talk to us about how it went.
Overall, I thought it was a resounding success. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of collaboration between administrators, the Board of Education, union leadership. But I thought it was a lot of just good work that we did together. So if I had to look at it, I'd say it was a team effort for sure, and that's taken individuals from all over the organization. On a personal level, I would say that it was a balancing act for me. I thought I was ready to be a superintendent and be able to balance the home life as well. But there were times this year that I didn't anticipate some of the impact it would have on my boys in particularly. Okay. I think my wife can run without me sometimes and can just keep going. She runs marathons all the time, so I think she was used to the marathon. But for my boys in particular, it took a little bit of adjusting. But I think we're in a really good spot. I had the opportunity to connect with them individually still. That's something that my big commitment was, that I would always be a husband and a father first, no matter what my role was in education or in any institution. So I was able to balance that, but it definitely took some time. Some of the big things, the initiatives we talked about last year, were a sense of belonging for all, further community involvement, and more than typical growth. So we really tried to make sure that as we were going through this year, we took the opportunity to connect all of our initiatives in that way. So I think it was definitely a lot of work this year, but a lot of successes, a lot of opportunities for growth too. Success doesn't mean that we were perfect. There were numerous times that I stumbled and fell or hit my shin walking through the night, but it was an opportunity to continue to reset and look at expectations and figure out how we could continue to grow our district.
Okay. So you mentioned just some change in the dynamics of family. Talk to me about, in terms of the regularity or the cadence that you had before you became a superintendent with family. How much did that change, and were you able to kind of find a rhythm on that, or was it just always choppy?
I wouldn't say it was choppy, but I wouldn't say it was smooth either. I think RJ, my oldest, kind of put it best to me. He's like, Dad, you're not home a lot more than you weren't home before. Mm-hmm. So it had to be more intentional with my times, whereas before, maybe I was flicking through my phone, looking at social media, looking at what was out there. When I got home, I had to make sure I put my phones off to the side and just spent time with the boys. Because, for him to say that to me, he's 17 years old. He's the one that I've had the opportunity to coach, him and his friends, since he was young. He definitely articulated to me, this was probably back in March, where he's just like, Dad, you're really gone a lot more than you were before. So it took a little bit of, making sure that we laid out realistic expectations for them. They understood the why behind it. One thing that I can say that I can kind of glow with is that they're proud to have a dad that's a superintendent. So I think while it may have been a change for them, there was some pride coming from them as young men as well.
Okay. So were there some boundaries, guardrails that you had to put specifically in and around your family life to find the right balance?
I wouldn't say boundaries. I think just being intentional about the time. Like, we'd go out to dinner as a family more regularly. Maybe we only had an hour and a half, but we were very intentional about that. I'd say one of the good things is, since President Cifuentes has taken over, the boundaries of making sure that the weekends are meant for family, unless it's an emergency, have truly been honored. And I appreciate that, because that allows me to reset. There's a lot of community events on the weekends, and we head to those. But a lot of times, I'm able to disconnect a little bit on the weekends because of those healthy boundaries you set with the Board of Education there. And that was, a lot of that was supported through Board President Cifuentes for sure.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I know one of the things that I heard as I went around the schools that I was working with is that they wanted to see more of you and feel like there's more of a connection between district admin and just a rank and file. And I've seen how you've taken time and gone through and connected with folks at a couple of the buildings. In fact, I was with you one time, and I just kind of stood back and just kind of watched how you connected. And I've heard, people come back and say, wow, that was really cool that you were able to come in and do that. Now, you don't have a ton of time, obviously, but is that something that you intend to try to continue as you try to build a sense of belonging district-wide?
Definitely. I would say as we continue to systematize our approach to things, I think I'll be able to get into buildings even more. I don't want to set too much of a high bar for myself, but I do enjoy getting out there, meeting with people, talking to teachers, talking to students. So as we continue to systematize and we have consistency with our individuals that are in our leadership positions, it'll allow me to get out there more. That's one of the things I miss, is being in the school. When I got the opportunity to do Susapalooza at Krug one day, it was awesome just sitting there reading with the kids and connecting with the kids. It's important to remember why you got into education. So I'd say that that's still a goal for me. My administrative team as a whole, I know, HR, school leadership and learning, student services, curriculum instruction, they're always out there consistently. So that's one of my challenges as well, and I want to continue to grow in that avenue. One of the things I didn't realize when I first got into the seat is I probably overcommitted myself to things at times. When it came to meetings, et cetera, I had to work with Lisa a little bit in my cadence of my meetings to make sure there was a 10 to 15 minute buffer, because a lot of times I would take a 12 noon meeting right till 1 p.m. and then I'd have a 1 p.m. meeting right till 2 o'clock. And that's not realistic when you got to, take a moment to go get a drink of water, use the washroom, connect on a phone call real quick. So I had to be a little bit more intentional with that as well.
Okay, so a couple quick things. First one is, let's talk about some of the big system level challenges. Anything stand out to you as being particularly challenging? Because I know you had some, the district had some wins under your leadership, but I want to talk about some of the things that was most challenging or maybe even perplexing for you, and where those things are right now.
I think one of the things I didn't anticipate is when you're looking at building out that culture that you want, your family to be a part of, that you want your kids to be a part of, that change takes time. I've seen the culture change in a building level before. When I was a principal, I came in and really wanted to improve the culture and build upon the culture. And to turn that around in a building level took me about 3 years. So I think I may have set unrealistic expectations for myself in year one. While I think we've taken some great steps to get there, every time we take a step or two forward, there's an opportunity where we may have to take a step back to reset some expectations. So just that driving of the culture and continuing to move it forward was something that I think I probably was unrealistic with, but I think we've had some great wins this year. The collaboration between the board, the union leadership, my administrative team, bringing you on board as the ambassador for culture and climate has helped with those things for sure. But just to be realistic about when you're trying to correct a culture or we're trying to improve a culture, that's not something that's going to change overnight. I think the other thing that I anticipated was knowing that we had to negotiate both contracts, that was going to be a lot of hard work. But I just didn't anticipate how much time it was going to take from our team members this year. So, it was definitely something to celebrate. It's something that we worked together with, but it definitely took from Julie Swartzoff's seat, as well as all of the individuals around the team with her. It took a lot of time away from some of the stuff we had to do to run the district. So I knew it was going to be a lot, but I didn't anticipate that. And I think even looking into next year now, we take a look at knowing the fact that we're going to redraft our strategic plan. That's going to take a lot of time as well. So just making sure that some of those big initiatives that are out there that really meld together with where we want to head, that we're cognizant of the amount of time those take to do those right is very important to us. All
right. So Bob mentioned some wins that the district had in terms of negotiating some contracts and the collaboration. A new look collaboration between some of these important bodies. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to bring some of those folks that were a part of these big wins that the district had, and we're going to have a conversation.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
All right. So before the break, we talked about some of the successes that the district had. And joining us on the panel are some of the individuals that were key to those successes. So I'm going to allow you guys to introduce yourselves, starting with you here, Becky.
I'm Becky Raro. I am the union president and also a fifth grade teacher.
I'm Julie Swartzloff, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
And I'm Juan Cifuentes. I'm the school board president.
Awesome. So we talked about one of the big things that happened here this school year was we negotiated successfully 2 pretty critical contracts. So you guys are all a part of it. Talk to us about the process and how it was for you. Let's start with you on that one, Becky, as a union president. How was the process?
I think that there was a lot of apprehension going into contract negotiations based on the history of the district. And even when we met at first, there was a lot of apprehension about how we do an opener, and how I kept bringing it back to my team, and they're like, no, no, no. And we finally came up with a plan that seemed to work for both sides. And it laid the groundwork for us being able to bat things back and forth. And it became a pretty collaborative process, I'd say.
Absolutely. I think what was really key in the process was that we valued so much collaboration and openness and transparency. What was pretty incredible about this process is that the union and the district were both coming from the perspective of wanting to do the very best for the district, for the community. And to do that, we have to really honor and value the staff that are in front of us. So having that as kind of our common ground really led to a lot of, I think, valuable conversations and a really great agreement that's good not only for the community, but especially for our staff as well.
Yeah, and to bring the gentleman in, I think we also wanted to set a different tone and honor the new president and honor Bob and honor ourselves by really maintaining confidentiality and not talking outside of the table and just adhering to really strict standards that way and holding each other accountable. And I think that is really super important in terms of changing the culture moving forward.
Okay. So Board Member Cifuentes, from a board level, I think you've been around for a while. How did the process? How was it different this time around than the previous times when you were part of? Maybe you were not leading per se, but you were part of when the previous contract.
Yeah, previous times I was not in it 100% or anything like that. It was more on the outside. But this time, laying that foundation of trust, making sure that the union and the administration really work together, on building that, like I said, trust, it goes a long way. And, throughout this whole process, over the last year, we've talked about belonging and collaboration, and it's just building that togetherness, making sure that we all work together, making sure that we're listening to one another. I mean, once we listen to each other, we build that trust. I think we can break everything that we've done in the past in the wrong way.
Dr. Halverson, you had a thought?
Yeah, I think I truly appreciated the process. Julie and I had a lot of conversations early on about if I needed to truly be part of the process. If you look at most school districts, when it comes to negotiation, it's typically 50-50 where the superintendent's at the table. But I had a team that I trusted, a team that I could rely on. Becky and I had numerous conversations previously to set up that trust as well. So it was nice being a step removed from the process, but continually involved in the process. And the way I was involved was we'd go to closed session, we'd present, Julie would come in with me, and we'd present and lay out all of the aspects that we had tentative agreements on. And I have to give the board kudos. They asked questions when appropriate, but they kept the information confidential, as Becky stated there. And Becky's team did that as well. And that helped us continue to flow. We were done, I think, in 8 short weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, 8 sessions total. And I think it was done because there was a stonewall level of trust where we had everything kept within those boundaries there. So I was truly appreciative of that. And once again, kudos to the team at the table. We'd talk offline, Julie and I would talk, but I truly never had to come sit at the table for negotiations, and we had a very successful negotiation. So I think that builds on both what Juan and Becky were talking about, where everybody truly realized we're here for the students, and we're here to support our staff to make sure that they're taken care of, and we can build that sense of belonging for them as educators as well. So it was an ideal situation. 4 years from now, I don't know where we'll be with that. Hopefully it just flows even better at that point in time.
Right.
But even our UniServe director said this isn't what he had experienced. He hadn't had an experience like that. It was truly just such a collaborative, trusting experience. So I have to say that that's probably one of the things when you ask me what I'm proud about, that's probably one of the biggest things I'm proud of this year is that process and how it played out because of how we all worked toger.
Yeah.
And preparedness. I mean, I think everybody had prepared. We came to the table absolutely prepared every single time. You guys did too. We were pretty clear throughout, changing superintendents and throughout the years about what was important to the staff. And there were surveys and conversations. And so we were able to incorporate that all into our discussions at the table.
Right. Okay. So funny enough, I was talking to an AP at one of the buildings, and this AP said to me, union negotiations are going on, and I haven't had anybody beat down my door and ask me about what we need shirts. Do we have a budget to get shirts? Because we need to get out and, whether it be picketing or whatever else had happened. But all of that is really great. So talk to me now, or talk to the individual that says now, this whole buddy-buddy between these bodies that are usually, have some level of combativeness, doesn't feel that great because maybe in their mind, someone is losing out. Sometimes when you always have these adversarial type of bodies, and now they're doing kind of the buddy-buddy thing, people are like, somebody is getting the shaft one way or the other. So talk to the person who has that mindset about why this is different.
Yeah, there is a more traditional mindset that the relationship between the union and the administration, or the union and the board, has to be adversarial. And we contest that as a foundational component of the guiding principles of this process. We said, absolutely not. We can best serve our kids and our staff and our community by working together. And instead of looking at it as a win-lose, we said it's not a win unless it's a win-win. And so that was really central to the process that we developed. It wasn't exactly, there's different ways you can go about bargaining. It wasn't traditional bargaining. It wasn't interest-based bargaining. It was our own EA version that we developed so that we could have really open problem-solving conversations. And then at the end of the day, reach a solution that was going to be a win-win, that honored the history and the context that brought that issue to the table, and that made sure that we addressed all of those components in a way that didn't leave anyone behind. And so I think that's what we're really proud of now, is that not only were we able to do that, but we had, just incredible support from the board and guidance along the way. We were able to remain open with the union. So every week we were sending an update so they knew exactly where we stood and what we were working on. And hopefully at the end, now they're able to see that relationship will serve us going forward. We'll always have different perspectives and different lens because we're coming from a different place. But if we can explain the why behind it and we can work together, we're going to come up with solutions that don't leave anyone behind.
And I think it's not just like, I don't think it's I would have thought that everybody would look at this on the face of the document and be like, this is an incredible contract, because it is an incredible contract. But I think people need time, and they need to see that those kind of relationships continue. Okay. And it's not like we never had disagreements. We just do them professionally and in the right space and time. And I think that goes back to like giving the board space to do their job, giving Dr. Halverson space to do his job, and each other and stuff, so that we can establish that we are professionals, we can do our job, and we can do our job really well.
Yeah, healthy conflict helps us all move forward together.
Yeah.
So real quick, Becky, so what was the process like for you in particular? Because I know you get out and you deal with and you represent the large body of the staff, and so you must have had conversations with folks. So did it, the way it happened on the global scale, was it that way on the ground floor as you had conversations with people? Were people just understanding of how the process is flowing and what you shared with them, or were you having to put out those fires with people who are saying, I don't really like how things are going. We're not seeing the dukes up, right? We're not seeing the dukes up, so maybe it's not going as well. They're trying to, put the wool over our eyes or something. So talk to me a little bit about that, your experience on that level.
Completely honestly, I think that the lack of trust that's in the district, the conversations I had with people one-on-one and in small groups, I think it was when there was an issue or bringing up, like, what'd you give up? Or were you prepared? Were you this? I think comes from that same place of a lack of trust and people being afraid. And so I had to really kind of say, this is not about me, even though it was very much about me. I'm very proud of the contract in some ways. And I poured my heart and soul into it, and I prepared for many years and every single day leading up to the ratification. So I want to be clear about that. But also, too, is that people just need time, and they need to see us walk it through. And like you were saying, I think my expectation was a little high on that they would just see it, and I was living, breathing it, and comparing it to every single any way to compare our contract to other contracts, I did that. And so it's part of who I am, and I just have to give people time to get to where I am.
Right.
Do you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
To me, it does at least.
Okay.
Right? So gentlemen, so Bob as the superintendent and Juan as board president, right? I'm sure because there's connectivity. There's a lot of connectivity within the community. There's, family and great friendships all across the board. Did anyone get to you guys specifically with concerns about how the process was going, and what were some of those conversations, if any?
I didn't have any. I mean, there were no constituent groups that really came out and said, hey, during this time frame, we were also pretty transparent with our budget. We're going through some issues right now, balancing the budget, making sure that our expenditures are in line with, what we have coming in. And so I think we were pretty transparent. It's all laid out. There's nothing that, we are hiding or things like that. Everything was just laid out. I think in the past, I think it goes back to that trust feeling where maybe employees just didn't trust and probably feel that we were hiding something, but there's nothing to hide. We have to be, stewards of the money, right? For the district, the community, the taxpayers. But at the same time, we have to be fair. And that's where, I wanted to come in and make sure that the board members, that we were fair to our staff. We were, our community, the students at the end of the day, and the administration. We know that there's some issues with, retention, teacher retention. So we had to make sure that we were fair with the contract to kind of be in line and making sure that we keep our teachers here in the district.
And I would say, just building off of what Juan said there, it was a good opportunity for us to upset the common understanding of education. Because as you talked about Duke's Up, a lot of times you look at it and it's a triangle. It's the Board of Education and the admin, and they're working together, but then there's times where there's conflict, and then the union's over here and there's conflict. We really wanted to do away with that. We wanted to make sure that everybody understood, and when you're not used to that, it is met with apprehension from stakeholders. It could be other administrators in my camp, it could be teachers in Becky's camp, it could be board members in Juan's camp, but just continuing to say we're all in this for the right reason and we're gonna be transparent with each other. We knew we were coming off of a 5-year contract where the cost of living increases didn't keep up with what our contractual increases were for our staff. So we knew we had some catching up to do. And we were met with a time that could be pretty tough because of the fact that we're losing funding. We went from tier 1 to tier 2. We lost ESSER funding that was there because of COVID relief. So we had to be transparent with the union to say, we're gonna take care of you, but we've gotta have some real conversations about knowing that 68% of our budget is on salary and benefits. We had to make sure that we were transparent and said, when we look at it this year, we've got 60 retirees. We have to be on the same page to fill internally here and not hire from the outside. And Becky and the union leadership were all on board with that because they knew where we needed to head, and that's how we could have a sustainable model for our students and continue to focus on them. So I was truly surprised at how transparent we could be, because I could go to closed session and present to the board and say, hey, here's where we're at fiscally. We're not going to lie to you. We've got to look at our revenue and expenditure for years to come, but this is where we're at right now. This is the hill we were met with. We've got to take care of our teachers and get a contract negotiated in good faith. And just making sure that we could have those conversations in real time helped us to be able to keep that process moving forward. And it's not to say that there's not going to be challenges coming, because there will be. Right. But I think the three of us working together, when I talk about admin, when I talk about union leadership, and I talk about the board, will help us to continue to be able to tackle those challenges in real time and continue to do best for our students and for our staff.
Okay.
And then the education piece, I think, is essential as we move forward. I already have sort of said, here, we need to make all these opportunities to really educate the members about the contract, because people look at the salary schedule often, or they look at these little niche areas of the contract and they don't look at the whole thing. And I think we really presented them with a package. I mean, I'm pretty proud of the fact that it was all members from all bargaining units, and it was a full package. And I think with education, that'll become more apparent.
I think
Awesome.
one of the things, just to follow up on what Becky said, is it's important for us, when we look at our educators, IFT, AFT, we're wall to wall outside of our SEIU, which is our custodial engineers. We have a lot of teachers' assistants, a lot of office professionals that have spent years with us. And our teachers are very important. Our teachers go through increased rigor, academic components that they have to get their license, but our TAs, our office professionals, our PPAs, they're just as important because they're a body that meets a student on a daily basis. And the student doesn't care if it's the superintendent smiling at them, greeting them with a smile, they want to be seen. And our TAs, our office professionals, our teachers, they serve that capacity just as well as anybody else. So it was important to us to make sure that we took care of those individuals. And one of the things we were strategic about is we know historically we've outsourced a lot of our contracts because we were struggling to fill those in real time. For me, that's doing a disservice to our community because those are real dollars that could be brought into our community that we could be hiring the mom who wants to be on the same contract as her students and can be there to service. And they're gonna have way more passion about it than somebody we brought in from the outside. So that was very important to all of us as we were going through that process.
Yeah, and planning for the future, because one good contract and then no more good contracts, it's not so great.
No, not at all.
But building upon now, I feel like we have a really great foundation to build for the next time. And
good.
If we didn't overdo it, we didn't underdo it. It's a great foundational piece.
Definitely.
That's awesome. So what do you guys see from your individual seats? What do you see as the big challenge or the big challenges that is the next thing? And how do you, from where you sit, how do you participate in managing that issue? I'll start with you on that one, Bob.
I would say the biggest challenge for me is making sure that we continue the positive momentum we have. A lot of times when they say you come in as a superintendent, you can come in and you can hit that honeymoon phase. I would say that honeymoon phase probably only lasts for about 60 days if I'm realistic, and I'm now a full year and 2 months into it. But I think we've had a lot of good momentum. But to what Becky said earlier, if we don't deliver on the promises that we've made, we're gonna lose all that social capital that we've built. So one of the big things is we've got some very strategic committees built in and they've been revamped through the bargaining process. It's important that we honor the decisions that are made in those committees that are true joint committees from the administrative side and the teaching ranks and office professional and teacher assistant ranks as support staff as well. I would say the other big challenge for us is I've talked about community involvement, and I think we've made some good strides with our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, our partnership with Family Counseling Services, reestablishing our African American Parent Association, reestablishing our Student Services Committee. But I think we need to continue to figure out how we get parents bought into our systems more often and into our schools more. I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at the camera to say this, we want you in our buildings. We want to find ways to get parents to volunteer in our buildings. I know COVID put a damper on that, but we want to find ways to get people back in our buildings because that sense of belonging and that community involvement only goes as far as it does with our parents and guardians. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge for us. And another challenge, we've touched on it briefly, fiscally, we don't have the same revenues coming in. So we're gonna have to be even more strategic about how we do things, how we right size, how we analyze without making an impact on our students and staff is what the goal is gonna be. So I'd say those are the big challenges for us. And then a final one, strategic plan this year. We're operating on a strategic plan that's now expired, and that was very intentional because I needed to make sure that I got the people in the seats that I needed to be there. We got through the contract negotiations, but we want to hear from our stakeholders. We want to hear from our board so we can really talk about what components of the strategic plan make sense still, what components that I brought in since I've been superintendent make sense, but then also what we need to expand on as well.
Yeah, and when we were towards the end of negotiation, I kept saying everything is sort of coming together like this and it's all leading to a strategic plan. And so I really do believe that it's time, that the groundwork has been laid. We have the foundation for that. And the next thing is to get the community involved and with the same values.
And I know I talk too much, so now it's somebody else's turn because I know how that's I can go. So please kick it over to somebody else because I know I get going sometimes. So sage on stage, sorry.
From the board's perspective, I think, or from my own perspective, I think the biggest challenges would be, and you hit on a couple of them, the strategic plan is important for the board, making sure that we set the vision and set, so you can kind of lead the way. parent involvement. I mean, that's huge. Being a parent myself, how do we get the parents in? How do we get them more involved and engaged? There are times when I attend some of the events and there's not many parents there. So it'd be nice to somehow just, bring them in. And, another one that you kind of hit on is making sure that we stay fiscally responsible and not overspend, making sure that we continue to find ways that we can save money. And one of the ways that we can save money is what you just mentioned a minute ago, is regarding the the staff. Instead of going out and paying a staff agency, keeping those employees here employed within the district, and that keeps the money here in the area. And then the last thing is student achievement, finding ways to kind of making sure that our students continue to learn and, continue to increase their level within the district. So that's something that's really important on my end.
Yeah. How about you, Julie?
I would definitely say, from my perspective, culture building. I think the HR department, we should be the culture champions of the district. And there's a couple of different ways we have to look at that, right? I think first we have to be realistic about where we currently are. What is this reality? Accept it and be open about it. So I think in the next year we'll spend some time really trying to hear the voices of all of our stakeholders and get a better understanding of where we're at. But then building a culture takes a long time. I think we built a lot of the foundation through this process, but now it's enacting that day after day, right? And it's those small moments that build a culture, not the big moments. And so sustaining that, making sure that we have a clear value system and that we live that in our interactions with one another every day, that's where the rubber hits the road. So I'm really excited about that work, and I think there's a lot that we can do together to build out our culture as a district.
Awesome. You have anything else, Becky? Any thoughts for your group as you go around, and you what are some of your what is something that you are looking for to see with your constituent group this coming year?
I think it's the same thing. I think that as the culture improves in the district, I think the union has a culture as well, and we need to decide what kind of a culture we want our union to be. And I think we've set the example of we've shown what we value and what we want, and then so I think it's about getting out there and modeling that for people, and setting some boundaries and setting the tone for what those kind of interactions look like. Because oftentimes the only time you see at the union is when things are getting rough, and and so like to have those good relationships built up so that those times aren't quite as bad. So yeah, I think we could work on our union culture as well, to be honest.
Awesome. It's funny, as I'm sitting here and just thinking about the opportunity that I've been given, and how it's played out so far. One of the things that I think about is the ability to bring people together. One of the things that I've heard in all the buildings that I've been to is there are strong pockets of culture within those buildings. And when people talk about the strong pockets, they talk about the strong relationships between individuals and subsets of that group. And so what I think would be a tremendous goal for me, and something that I would completely enjoy, is rebuilding community across entire buildings. Agreed. Right? So as you rebuild a community across the entire buildings, then that rolls up to a district level and a district culture that's strengthened. Because as I'm thinking about it, when I talk to teachers from elsewhere, they don't say they're employed at a particular school. They say they're employed at District 308, District 129, District 131. So they talk about their existence from a district level. But the way to strengthen the culture is finding out what's happening on the ground floor at all of these buildings and roll it up. And so I'm excited about what's happened so far and what's next, right? And none of this stuff is about just having conversation. It's really about having the conversation, setting the expectation, and doing the work, right? And leadership is so critical to culture building. And as I'm sitting here, every one of you guys are leaders at the highest level within the district. When they see, like you talked about, Julie, the little interactions, the little moments, that those are the things that stick in people's head. And when you do it consistently, it all of a sudden just starts to happen and everybody just kind of embrace it. So my thought around just strengthening this culture is first starting with the adult culture, right? The teachers, the administrators, the PPAs, you name all of that. Because when we set the culture, the students see it and they, acknowledge it, and then they embrace it. But if we never set it, then there's really nothing to follow. The other thing that I think we need to have another conversation at some other point. I think this probably will be the next conversation, Bob, if you will. What will accountability look like? Because there's just, as you talk to different people, you hear different things, and when you look at it, you take a step back and look at it. If I'm being held accountable for doing A, and the next person is not being held accountable, it doesn't do anything to building and strengthening a culture. So I think we need to come back and reconvene at a different time and talk about what accountability looks like, or what it will look like across the district. But just want to say thank you guys for, again, one of the things that I've heard as I'm going around is folks are saying, we don't know anything about the district leadership. We don't have any communication or connection. And this is a way of engendering that connection. So I really appreciate everyone just coming out and just talking candidly about your roles and some of the great successes. But with every success, there's always 3 or 4 challenges. And what I'm sensing is a commitment to face the challenges, not individually, but collectively. So for my little time that's left with you guys, I'm excited because I can literally sit here and feel the energy of a new unity that's going to present a lot of great outcomes for the district. So thank you guys for sitting down and having this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been SuprIntentional. Join us next time for a conversation with people operating in purpose and the relationships they form that change our lives and our community.